Pretty Dece, here we go. Facebook.com/Pretty Dece Show. It's time to geek out with Josh, your host.
What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and welcome to Pretty Dece, the short show about movies, comics, games, and all the pop culture in between. And in the world of video games, GameStop is probably a name you're very familiar with as a very large video game retailer. But GameStop has unfortunately not been doing so hot really for the past several years. Used game sales, which is the main business that GameStop is in, really have an expiration date on them as we approach this kind of all digital future of gaming that kind of everyone expects is on the horizon. And online retailers like Amazon have continued to cut into GameStop's business as more and more customers become more and more likely to buy something online versus in a brick and mortar GameStop or other store. So GameStop, with all of this news, GameStop of course has many subsidiaries of GameStop like ThinkGeek. They've been looking to sell themselves. Essentially, GameStop wants to get out of the GameStop business. They've been looking to sell off the company, all of the subsidiaries of GameStop, basically just say, here, you run this, we're out. But GameStop announced today that that search is being called off, effectively telling stockholders that they can't be sold, they can't find a buyer. Naturally, stock took a bit of a tumble with that news, and over the course of one day, dropped 27%. From $15.49 down to $11.28 and continuing to fall. Now, GameStop stock, this is very low for GameStop. I think the all-time high is somewhere around $45. So we're already pretty darn low and only lower from this news. GameStop recently purchased a couple other companies, one Spring Wireless, one Simply Mac, and they sold Spring Wireless earlier this month for $700 million. So obviously that was good and made stockholders happy, at least in part. But at the same time, GameStop announced a third quarter loss of almost $500 million, which includes that $700 million from the sale of Spring Wireless. So good, but really just kind of digging out of a hole and nowhere near the top is kind of where GameStop finds itself. So GameStop seems very likely to be going the way of Blockbuster if they can't turn things around and make a massive change to their business model. Like Blockbuster, they're a company that was once on top of the market, really the de facto standard in their particular market, and then they saw it crumble from beneath them. Blockbuster saw the rise of Netflix and online streaming and couldn't adapt in time to make changes to save their company. And GameStop is now seeing the decline of used games and the rise of online digital distribution of gaming, and isn't figuring out how to adapt and live within that world. Like Blockbuster, they haven't found a way to diversify and change up their business model so that they can make up these lost sales from the changing environment. GameStop has attempted to get more into kind of the merch side of things, expanding their offering of what I would call assorted nerd crap, like action figures and plushies, but that doesn't really seem like it's going to cut it. Obviously, that's the direction that they're trying, but I don't know that's going to make up the huge, probably dearth of sales that they're going to be missing. So they need to find more than just that. Obviously, GameStop is in a pretty volatile spot here and is going to close down eventually if things don't change. If the next generation of consoles get announced and they are diskless, basically they have some feature that cuts out the ability to play used games, GameStop is essentially dead in the water at that point. They have essentially no business going forward. That almost happened this past console generation with the Xbox One until fan backlash had Microsoft reverse that decision. However, that by all accounts is just a decision that was a little bit ahead of its time. Everyone still kind of sees that being the ultimate direction that gaming goes. People just weren't generally ready for it. But as broadband internet gets more prevalent and we kind of move forward in time, people will become more and more used to that concept of having a console that your purchases are tied to, or having an account that your purchases are tied to, that you can never trade in your used games. The concept of a used game is just no longer a thing. That might happen this next console cycle, maybe at the next one, maybe the one after that, but it will happen in my opinion, and at that point, GameStop will just cease to exist. So GameStop desperately needs a plan in place before that happens, or yes, again, they're going to become the next Blockbuster. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me to discuss GameStop and really the future of the used games business as a whole. If you want to support Pretty Dece, you can do so. Visit prettydeceshow.com/listener support to find out those details. Of course, download the podcast from your favorite podcast delivery platform. You can find all of those links at prettydeceshow.com. And of course, follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Pretty Dece Show.